Welcome to the show. Today's topic, setting goals and why it's important for men to have them in every aspect of their lives. I'm pretty sure you've heard them, or not you've heard them, I'm sure you have if you've gone on YouTube, or even if you're an older person and you I'm old enough to remember the commercial with Tony Robbins uh, that would come on the weekends, or not only just Tony Robbins, but it was also mixed in with a lot of the Sunday churches that were on TV back in the 90s and stuff like that, or in the late 80s, early 90s. And he talked about, or they talked a lot about goal setting and stuff like that. Obviously, for me, I was too young to understand why it was important, given my own personal upbringing, which is the same thing for you guys. Depending on what environment you got raised in, and what life has dealt you. Um, the proper way of growing up, I guess. You grew, you didn't learn it, you weren't taught it, so you're like, you grow like a plant, you kind of grow a little crooked or your own kind of special way, and you miss out on certain issues. Like a lot of men, my age and younger, we'll just call it 45 and younger. Not that I'm 45, uh, but let's just call it 45 and younger. Certain aspects of being a man were not taught, given various variables, um, as to why some of us aren't better with money, better with emotional control, better with being stable, better with communication, setting a tone, dealing with friends and families and women. There's just, we lack there, something. So we could be. I don't want to say. I was gonna say alpha or shit like that, but it's not an alpha or beta thing. It's just being able to know what a man does in every one of those little, things that I just mentioned. And again, because of so many, circumstances, some of those things aren't taught, were not learned. We can't rely on the school system, and the school system back then in the late 80s and 90s and shit, we could go up to now, isn't the best as far as the public school system. And certain, topics now are just being avoided, not talked about, or have never been brought up. And unfortunate that men are expected to know these things when we enter adulthood and start interacting not only with friends and colleagues, but with women romantically. Because we suffer from a lack of knowledge, a lot of men are judged, or they put themselves in a, I don't want to say, I'll take that back, not judged, just men put themselves in a position where they're in uncharted territory. And anytime you're in uncharted territory with no leader, no one to guide you, you're just gonna be lost. You're just gonna be floating, or let's just keep it simple. You're just gonna be lost because you're in again, you're on uncharted territory. And because a lot of us didn't have that certain models to teach us some of these stuff, we're horrible with money, we're horrible with relationships, we're horrible in keeping jobs, we're horrible in owning up for our own faults as men. The reason I went on from this soliloquy about the Tony Robbins is just I feel like a lot of men have heard that message, right, of the goal setting, and so it's nothing new. But something that, again, the whole point was that we're not taught why it's important to set goals. When we think of goals is like financial goals, and which is great. I want to get a job, and I want to save up $200, whatever. Or I want to lose weight. We're coming up on a new year here. It's one of those goals where I want to lose weight. I want to be my best self, especially in the New Year's resolution. Whoa, what is going on with my English? I mean, not that my English is any better throughout the other podcasts, but God. Anyways, the New Year's, plans that they have every New Year's, losing weight, going to the gym more, not eating bad. And those are great goals. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, those are dumb." It gets a bad rap now, just like everything with social media, the meme culture. The moment anybody talks, I mean, there's memes about, oh, here comes the memes about being your best self, and trying to be better. Calm down, sis, or whatever, or come down, bro. So it's already putting down the idea self betterment, or having control and stuff like that. Like, it pushes a certain agenda, which I don't want to discuss that subject right now because it's too, to debate a culture, or to have a culture argument, and to bring in popular, especially pop culture, into a reason why some of the just what's going on currently in 2020 and late 2020, it's gonna take a while. I mean, it's 'cause it's an important topic, and I definitely don't want to. I mean, there's merit, not the merit, but there's definitely a point of emphasis that I want to make, but I want to make sure I'm poignant and diligent with the research that I do, even though I mean, not that I'm not knowledgeable in what I talk about. I tend to think I'm knowledgeable in what I talk about. Without diving too much into it, it's just something that needs more attention and more unbiased opinions, and something that's going to lead to a more rational, kind of an understanding as to why certain things are happening. Anyway, so it's just a negative thing. Even now, it's becoming this funny. Oh, you're trying to better yourself, whatever. You have goals, you'll break them. So this, I'm gonna spend some time and just kind of beating it into men's, and young men as heads, as to the importance of goal setting. And this is coming from someone that learned about goal setting, as far as implementing it into my own life fairly recently. Um, and many men don't have that structure, and are gonna end up in the same boat that I'm at, where you're learning this in a later time in life. And I mean, it'll be short lived, hopefully, where you realize, if you just had this structure earlier on, then how much more disciplined and focused your life would be. So it's super important to set goals, and strive to achieve those. Because there's an overall, this it will take some kind of thinking on your part as to an ultimate goal, right? But when you start thinking of, like, what's my ultimate goal, it becomes so vague and so overwhelming that everything else underneath it kind of falls flat. So I'm saying, don't even think about the ultimate goal, because the ultimate goal will start happening as you start just setting those personal goals, or whatever. I don't want to say personal goals, because that just kind of defines it into one area. Just the goals that you end up setting up. Again, like I when I went off on my soliloquy again, we've all heard about goal setting. We've, at our place of business, if you're old enough with the amount of meetings and HR, meetings that people are having now. I'm sure posters or some kind of rah rah speech about, goal setting as a department or goal setting as a company, and blah blah blah, that whole corporate spiel that they give us. But we've all heard the basis as to why it's important to do goals, right? And I'm not saying there isn't men out there that are definitely uh, not setting goals and are setting examples for men to be able to do that. But in many instances, they've been on this kind of directive. They've known from an earlier age what they wanted to do, and unfortunately, that's what makes them inspiring. Because for the most part, we don't. We succumb to our vices. We succumb to our bad decisions. We succumb to turning left when we should have gone right. That's what makes them, because they, and call it the, whatever, the Monday morning, or what could have been, you know, if I did this. And I get that a lot. I mean, I'm 6'4". I was pretty good at basketball in high school, to the point where I could grab attention. And because of certain my own decisions, I went through my own path. But it's not like, I mean, you've heard it from many people. Those war stories like Al Bundy from Married with Children, back in my high school days and stuff like that. And it's a common thing among men, but there is some validity to it, right? Because the highest of the highs, like, Tiger Woods was playing freaking golf when he was what, 3 years old, 4 years old, whatever it was, 7 years old. So my dude has been in golf throughout his whole career. Mike Tyson was beating up fools really early on. Jordan and Kobe. Well, I think Jordan actually picked up basketball later on, but the point being is, you get it. It's early on, and they kind of follow that passion, and that's what makes them great. That's what makes them inspiring. That's what just kind of lets us in to a little bit of our own ego, that, oh, if I would have just put this much more effort, if I would have just done those jump shots like him, I could have been like him. And that's what gives us men this attachment to these athletes, and even the false ones. Like, you'll see videos, or you'll even hear stories about, guys that think they could go against the best football player, or go up against the best boxer, or go up against the best whatever, and they think they might have a chance. And it's that delusion, but it's because of that, the fact that we associate ourselves with our lost, opportunities. But we tend to, oh, well, if I gave it this much effort, of course I'm gonna get the same results. Of course I would be a pro. But life was da 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 da, and that's when we go into our excuse mode. But it's just funny the way the mind works. So we know what goals are, but we hardly practice them. And if we do, it's in a forced environment, as work, because we're dependent on the check. But deep down, you know that you're just doing it because, no other part of your life are you disciplined, or have goals, or have a sense of accomplishment. And I'll take that back, because for a lot of men, depending if they're with families, they might, warp into the caregiver as providing for their family, and it becomes a goal to subconsciously, like, just be the best provider. Let me not get fired. Let me make sure that, food is on, that the rent's paid, that the lights are on, that whatever, you know whatever, however I could keep this happening. So that becomes our like ultimate goal. And that leads to many other issues that we'll get to talk about, the what leads to many of those issues in another podcast. But, subconsciously, men become that in it. We think of that becomes our goal, and that's where we kind of lose ourselves. But So when we talk about goals, or when men hear about goals, they can associate the two, as to far they might think like, yes, I understand it, and because of society that just makes it okay to give up, like, oh, I'm gonna go on a diet, but because Samantha over here is 300 pounds and her friend's like 325, and Samantha posted on her Facebook, her friend's gonna be like, I'll get out of here. You're not. We're gonna go, chow down at this restaurant later on, or on New Year's, and it kind of gives you the okay, or I know I'm using a female in this example, but it could be the same thing for a dude. It could be my homie hitting me up saying, "Hey, we're gonna quit drinking beer," and I'm gonna be like, "Dude, we're going out on New Year's. We're gonna get shit faced, so that's not happening." And I'm already setting the seed in my friend's mind that he's gonna fail because he's gonna go out with me, and I'm gonna drink, and he's for sure gonna drink because we're gonna be hanging together. And that's just the kind of culture that we have now. So goal setting has become a bit of a joke until, unfortunately for most men, something has to happen. We go broke, we, have a divorce, we have a separation with our girlfriend, uh, you know, uh, a family member die. I mean, I've seen that happen where a family member passes away, and all of a sudden, like, the goal setting becomes like, you know, a must. And you just see them fly real quick like a little rocket, because and Tony Robbins talks about that when it becomes a must, instead of a have or something like that, when it becomes that, like, there's no other option. It's crazy. And again, I'm not trying to plug a Tony Robbins or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I've seen it personally, where it became just like there was like that tunnel vision. And when you see someone with tunnel vision, it's crazy what can be accomplished. And I've had tunnel vision where I'm focused on a certain thing, and I've gotten the rewards from it in certain aspect, but definitely not as consistent as one should be. So, um, men, if once we experience this heartbreak or this life-changing event, then we establish, these goal settings, and which is great, at any point when you realize it. The same thing where I'm going about it is, the same thing. I learned it very, very late, and for me, it was it was the hardest thing to try to get myself to set goals, because I had such a, not a defeat. You could call it a defeatist mindset, I guess, but I was just like, man, I'm kind of older already, so this stuff is, and it's, I don't know, call it the machismo or the ego, but like, I kind of, and don't get me wrong, for the most part, for 90% of my life, I've been correct. But, and I know probably, what, 90%, let's just, okay, 80%, 80/20, we'll just go with the 80/20 rule. So 80% of my time, I think I've been correct. uh but 20% I've been wrong. But um I had to be, you know uh, honest with myself that I wasn't, goal setting. And what I realized, especially when I did something that I never thought I could do, that I ended up doing, but it was a goal that I had set already like 5 years prior, and like I failed daily, I failed weekly, but I tried so hard. And alcoholics will understand this, and people that have been addicted to something will understand, where you wake up wanting to quit something, and the sheer fact that you are, you wake up with that need to that need to take that substance to be able to cope with with your daily life. It was when I realized that it was okay that it was okay to fail. It was okay to, quit something and fail. And I use addiction because that's something that it's every day, every moment, for some people, every second. It's something that you have it in your mind to quit. And like I said, just the fact, the repetition, the addiction, whatever, it kind of keeps you in that loop until one day it doesn't. And I can't explain it better than that, and I couldn't make it justice because many people have asked me, and what I kicked was smoking cigarettes. I was super addicted to smoking cigarettes, and I started smoking cigarettes when I was 18, and I started heavily when I moved to Vegas and I started working at one of the casinos. And back then, you could smoke inside. There was like a fancy little smoke room. It was really chill, like almost like a restaurant vibe. And it was even easier just to pick up the habit because there was interesting people there. People from all over the world. I was coming from a big city, but I didn't visit or go many places. So it was interesting to get so many points of view. But I digress. I started smoking heavily from the age of 20, and I kicked it at 39. Almost 20 years of smoking cigarettes. And I'm not saying like, oh, he was like a light smoker. Like, nah. Like, well, I don't want to make this too personal, and I'll get to the fuller story of it, when it's deemed appropriate or whatever. But I always started smoking. I think it was a pack a day. It wasn't like I look like it. It was a gradual wind up just because of the people that I was hanging around with, the kind of stuff that I was doing, and the influences that I allowed to influence myself in that early age of myself allowed me to just, it just went in full force, one pack a day for 20 years. So for a long time, for me, subconsciously or even not subconsciously, just really in my mind, I was like, I'm always going to smoke. And just like everyone, I rationalized it with saying, well, I've seen people live up to like 90, 95, and they've been healthy. And why can't I be one of those people? Or I am one of those people, right? Circumstances that I'm not yet prepared to get into um, led me to a point in my life where I wanted change. So 5 years ago, I I I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit so many things, and cigarettes was one of them. And I just remember, you know, being in my car and by myself. My kids were, in the apartment, and but anyways, I was in my car. I was in my car and I just wanted to quit smoking cigarettes, again, and other things. And every moment from that moment when I said that in the car, I smoked. I failed. I failed literally a couple of minutes after there when I said that I wanted to smoke a cigarette, and I think I was smoking a cigarette while I even made that I want to quit smoking. And the ironic part is the last time I smoked a cigarette, I was outside. I had turned on a cigarette and I lit it up. I took one hit, like normal, and I this feeling of you don't need this anymore. I was smoking the same more amounts. I was up to a pack and a half, I think now. So I gradually grew it from a pack to a pack and a half, but um, everything was the same. But there was a conscious, mindset and a conscious. I daily woke up disgusted with myself that I couldn't kick this habit, for various reasons. I was upset with myself because I was weak. I couldn't. I know this addiction was costing me money, was costing me health, was costing me so much, and I couldn't kick it. But that day, I don't know. From one moment to the next, it just my body, my mind, my whatever just kicked that addiction. And it wasn't like I kicked nicotine. I didn't use the gum. I didn't use um, a patch. I didn't use anything besides. I'm kind of lying. I kind of used one of those coffee stirs straws, the red ones, and I only did it for like a handful of days after that, and it was only because of that always having something in my mouth. And I didn't want to have candy. I didn't want to have anything other. So that filled that need, and it took 5 days, and that was it. And it wasn't like a strong urge. It was just something that I don't know. Like I said, it didn't. Like I said, it wasn't a lot of straws. It wasn't like I was chewing through straws. So I don't want anybody, someone to think like, oh, that's the mechanism he used, because it was just very, like I said, it couldn't have been more than 10 straws, or at the most, and it probably was like for 5 days. And 10 straws is probably pushing it. It was probably closer to like a straw a day, and only for a few moments. And I normally did that anyways with like pencils and stuff like that. And but the point being is that it's like I had that daily want to, and I know it's an extreme example of failing goals, right? But I want to make sure that everyone is okay with failing, as long as that goal stays the same and you fall on your face. And I could have probably just said that and made it and not gone off this whole 10-minute conversation. But it's okay if you fall. It's okay if you set a goal and you don't reach it. It's okay if it's a daily thing like an addiction and stuff like that. But and not saying that it's okay to have an addiction, but as long as you're working every day to get better, to get help. And I know I use cigarettes, and there's no correlation with cigarette to a heroin addict, but there's several heroin addicts that don't want to do the drug. It's something that's just in them, but they wake up every day working to fix that addiction. And that's what it's about. You can't help whatever life has given you. You can't help that it is what it is as the saying goes. But just like you're gonna fail in the extreme of addictions, when you have goals and you fail in life, like saving $100, like being I said I was gonna call my son 3 times this week, and I didn't even call him once. Like, it's okay. Look, you're thinking about it. You're aware of the failure that happens. So you're, as men, what do men do? We figure out how to fix it. So, but you have to ask your mind the right questions and manipulate your mind a certain way to start kicking your mind into working for you and not against you, not pushing negative thoughts into your mind, but pushing those positive, let's resolve this issue. So if I'm not calling my son 3 times a day, 3 times a week, let me call him once. Let me call him right now. Let me call him, after break or on my lunch break. Let me, whatever. It'll start figuring out how to solve that problem. I want to save $100. Well, what did you spend money on? Your mind will start throwing stuff at you so you could process it to help you get to that, because it wants to feel good. It wants to be in a safe environment. It wants to be non-alert, right? It wants to be able. But if your mind is being told, no, tell me, I'm dumb. Oh my God, I couldn't save another $100, and oh my god, I didn't, I woke up late and whatever. I mean, there is consequences to everything, and this is not to take ownership from life consequences. Like, if you have a goal to wake up early so you don't get fired, fired from your job, that becomes a priority. That becomes something that is up there because that leads to many things. So, but you have to be cognizant. If you have a mindset of saying, I don't care about this job, I don't care about waking up, and if I get fired, without you knowing it, you set your goal, and your goal is to get fired. And you'll wake up, late. You won't go to sleep on time. You'll fuck off, and you'll get drunk. You'll stay up with girls, whatever. So you've set yourself to get fired, and that's your goal, as opposed to say, no, this job, whatever job it is, I'm grateful for it, and I need to respect it. I took the position, so I got to get there on time and make sure I'm always in time. And those are those kind of mini goals, and you could have them as a big goal, obviously, because it pays rent and it gives men the freedom to do whatever it is that you guys do. In the grander aspect of it, like, let's say you are aware of how important jobs are in society, then it just becomes a goal, right? It becomes not even a goal, it becomes a standard. And that's when you start differentiating, what is a standard as opposed to a goal. And that's how I learned it. Like, I had an emphasis on always getting on time and always being, when I got a new job, to make sure I got there early, make sure I knew the correct path to get there, how long it was going to take me. I mean, I took it to an excessive state, but I felt comfortable that, with the traffic, and I just wanted to make a good presentation so I could last longer, be able, as the saying says, first impressions are everything. And through my 20 plus years of working, it's benefited me to a certain point, positively, and it's something that more men should just be have, as a standard, as far as, getting to work on time. And I know, just having those as life goals. What do you want off life goals? And I know right now I mentioned, as far as, if you have a problem keeping a job, obviously waking up becomes a life goal. And what else is a life? What else in your life do you want to change? Well, I want to be able to have a little nest egg with savings. I want to be able to be in a relationship, or I want to be able to afford to get a new car, or whatever that is in your life you are doing. You got to set those in a broader aspect, right? Like, because it's your life, and your life has many different sections. But don't just make a list of all of these ideas and put them down on the paper, or put them up in your mind, because it is exactly that. If you have so many things out there, your mind is trying to process too much. And just because we haven't taught our mind to process that much, because we're rewiring it. If you just say, oh, I want to have this job, or I want to get to this job earlier, or I want to do better at my job, but I want to save, $200, but I want to be, cherishable. I want to find a girlfriend. I want to start dating. I want to buy a car, or get a down payment for a car. You see how each one of those could be its own little 20-minute, 30-minute kind of conversation. So, exactly that. Since each one of those can be its own little conversation, that's what you want to have. So, I only wrote three of them. You could go as much as you can. You could get it as detailed as you can. I mean, go at it if you want to, but like, I have like life goals, personal goals, and then love life goals. And not that those are mine, but that's an example that you could kind of, three areas that you want to improve on, or not even improve on, but you want to shed awareness to in yourself, and bring a spotlight to it. Because a goal could be just not being an asshole. So how could I not be an asshole? Be, smile more, talk to more people, be cordial, engage in conversations, whatever. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to make a bajillion dollars. I want to be, you know, try to, what is it? What does one of those say? Be contributing to society. It doesn't have to be any of those positive rah rah things. It could be like, I just don't want to be messy. I want to clean up my house more. I want to be more engaging with my neighbor. I want to walk my dog more. You could, any kind of goals that you could set that give you a sense of accomplishment when you're enriching your life. I don't care how small. Like we could just take what I said about a dog and walking. You could think about it, in a small sense. But if one, you're being affectionate to another species, to something else that has a heart, a dog. Two, the dog is gonna love it. What dog does not like to go out and go out for a walk, right? And go take a piss and a shit. I mean, outside. I probably shouldn't be cussing, but I mean, what dog doesn't want to do that, right? And if you're a dog owner, you want to show off your dog, so you get a benefit of taking the little, Yorkie or Shih Tzu or whatever British Bulldog you have, or you get to take it out, and you get some cardiovascular. You get to breathe out breathe the fresh air. You get to see your neighbors. You get to see your neighbor, your neighborhood. Kind of keep an eye out on things and stuff like that. So there's so much in just that one thing that you think, oh, it's so minuscule. But if you have a dog and you don't, and maybe you have that and add that into your, personal goals, to walk more. Well, how can you walk more? I could walk my dog more. And, it leads into exactly what I just mentioned, anyways, along with whatever you had. So, but it's important to narrow it down into, again, it could go as creative as you can. For me, I think if we focus too much, we have to train our minds to think that much. And that's where you get to the really successful people that they're thinking so much, and they're thinking not only of one thing, they have like 10, 20 things going up in their head, and they have it organized well. Again, like anything, repetition leads to, repetition is what makes shit happen. It's what's gonna get you the results. Nothing else will get that. There's very few people that hit a home run off the bat. Like, oh, I'm gonna invest $1,000 into this company, and in 5 years I'm gonna be a multimillionaire. I mean, I only know like two stories. I think one of them is Steve Wynn, but it might be 10,000 with him. It might not be 1,000, but I think it's 1,000. But I think there's a chance that it was 10,000. I mean, there's side stories to how he made his money, but we're not gonna discuss this podcast, or in any podcast for that matter, just in case some of those backstories are true. But the man is brilliant in business. Since we're not there yet, we have to work our way. We have to work that muscle of our brain to be able to process that much information. So for me, it's breaking it down to sections, and then whatever it is, like in this instance, life goals, like bigger goals overall, like traveling or being a better person and stuff like that. Like personal goals, you could say, about financing, about being more talkative, about kind of more how to overall develop yourself. You could put those on there. And then your love life, obviously everyone wants to, well, for most, not everyone, but most want to find that special lady to spend some time with. Or maybe we already have that special lady in our lives, and we want to improve on the quality of relations we have with that special lady. And you write that in that column. And and it's not like I want to say, oh, well, you're gonna go back and see that list every single time. But honestly, you're not, because life happens, right? But if you write it down, you're visually gonna it's gonna get imprinted somewhere there, and it's gonna keep on having these flashback effects. And that's why a lot of people tell you to write it down visually, and I know some people are visual and some people will hear and some people will send. I don't care. Write it down on paper. As you know, if you can, it's helpful to write it out as many times as possible. I personally have gone through so many papers just kind of making trees, diagrams, and what, not. It's been, some people will call that a waste of time. But for me, it was reprogramming my mind, right? So I had to keep on making sure in my mind it made sense to rewire what my mind was going to, tell me. And again, you could set goals for everything, but try if you failed a lot. Obviously, if you're really good in life and really good in doing whatever, you coming and hearing this because you're aware of goal settings and you know how to process and goal, putting goals and achieving your benchmarks, then go ahead, set as much goals and branch out to as much stuff as possible. If you've mastered certain things and you want to, make yourself even more well-rounded, well, give yourself some more harder goals. Give yourself, something different out of your comfort zone as a goal. Maybe you've really, really good, but you are afraid to talk to beautiful, strong African American women. Well, then go talk to strong, beautiful African American women. It'll take you off of your discomfort zone. Or maybe you don't have a lot of guy friends and but you're successful. You have a house, you have a car, you have expendable money, but you don't. So one of your goals could be, making more new friends. That, and for us men, given the alarming statistic of how many men don't have friends later on in life, it's something that should be a priority for ourselves. And like I've been harping over, when you set these things, you're going to fail. That's the thing. You have to understand you're going to fail when, and you're trying to achieve not of your goal. You're not gonna fail your goal. You're just gonna stumble. You're gonna fall for traps. You're gonna not see stuff coming, but you're gonna have that in the back of your head, and you just can't let those failures take you away from that goal. You know what? So what? You wanted to find a loyal girlfriend and you found yourself another one of these that cheated on you, broke your heart, just used you for your money. God damn it, what's wrong with you? And soak it up, fill it up, feel that pain, feel that, yes, call yourself a couple names or whatever. But your goal is what? To find a loyal woman. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna reevaluate what flags did you not see? What process in the courtship in the dating, did you didn't own up or didn't take control of a situation, whatever reason. I know I can't make it justice by the even giving it 10 examples, but you get the point. Insert in our path to reach these goals, but that's okay. Don't let society, don't let, people telling you, oh, I told you so, you couldn't save any money. Oh, you said we were going to go to Disneyland this year, but I told you, we haven't even saved like $200. You know what? You know what I mean? And but you're cognizant, and then you're, like I said, you're gonna just work towards it, towards the achievement, if that's what you want. Now, we could get into a discussion if anybody's that mean to you because you can't take them to Disneyland. Well, we could have that discussion, and we will have that discussion at some point. But point being is that don't let anyone down, and you could even be, for that instance, like kids. I know for the mine or the example that I did was like a wife or a girlfriend or whatnot. But even if it's for the kids, whatever I mean. So, but don't let that get you down because, like men or as men, failures are part of the territory. And it's good to lead in all the fun times and oh, I'm gonna pay for the dates and I'm gonna show my wife who's boss and I'm going to lead my kids and da rah 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 alpha 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 male male male. You know what I mean? But like we have to own our failures. Great generals recognize what battles are lost. Like what's not, yeah, and why do we recognize our losses? Because that's the only way we learn, right? Like the great sports athletes that we look up to. Some of the greatest motivation has been, so don't let anybody make you feel, bad because you fail. That's part of being a man, is we're going to manage the failures also, and be better in whatever situation. But it can't deter us from the goal. So we didn't achieve it today, but I'm going to achieve it tomorrow. And if I don't achieve it tomorrow, then I'm going to achieve it then, the next day. And so far, so on and so on. But that's the thing. And too many times now, we have so many people on our so-called corner that are willing to laugh at us, or people on, even in our social media that we keep around, that when we do post some motivational stuff about, oh, I'm gonna lose weight, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna, improve my love life, or blah 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 blah, you get a bunch of friends laughing at you, or commenting on your, oh, calm down, da, 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 you're not, or whatnot. And we have to be cognizant of that too, and aware of those people, and start exiting them out of our lives, because but it subconsciously will hurt your feelings. You'll kind of gravitate to the bad comments. I mean, you hear that from successful people when they say, oh, you could get a million positive comments, but you're always going to gravitate to that one negative. So imagine those people are successful, and are what people strive to be. So imagine people that don't have even a speckling of that success, but have even more, or a smaller group, and more people on a negative. I mean, that does the same effect. There's no different, because one is more successful and one is a house mom, or works at a $40,000 job, and whatnot. There's no, reevaluate that circle X amount, and but don't let those failures happen or get you down, because not happen, they're gonna happen. Failures are going to happen. Just don't let them get you down and deter you from your overall goal. Like I said, with my cigarette, I failed daily until one day, and I was failing all through that, experience daily. You hear it in other aspects in life, like I said, in stories, sports stories, corporate stories, success stories, people that fail and fail and fail, but finally break through. And that's something that has to be championed, and has to be repeated, and it's something that in everything, we just can't let that get us down, because again, not only because that's how life happens, but we're men, and we're going to manage that as men the same way we'll manage the upticks, is what's going to make goals happen. I mean, I've kind of hinted at it a little bit already, that, you know, just you keep on doing it, you keep on doing it. So when I put myself in a position 5 years ago to just change my mindset, and I know I went to the extreme of cigarettes, but in another aspect is, 5 years ago I wanted to recommit to fitness, and taking care of myself a little bit more. And it hasn't been up to like the last 2 years that I've taken it, semi serious. And then we scale it down to the last, like, close to a year, where I've gone harder than a lot of people, just a lot of people, and the results have come even more. And or the results are coming just as I expected, and I'm happy with my progress in fitness. And but it all stemmed from that goal that I said I wanted to better myself, and I broke it up. And cigarettes, and now the example of fitness, was two things that, I wasn't doing, but I set these goals up there, and I started just. It's okay to write them down, but if there's no action behind them, it just becomes a fantasy. And there was, again, I failed a lot. I failed in the fitness aspect too. I mean, there was days that I was just going and half-assing it, thinking I was doing something. Looking back at it, I'm like, wow, that was a waste of time. That was a waste of like a year, without knowing. what to do. So my learning curve is, it is what it is, but you don't know what you don't know. That's how most men are, where we don't know and we won't ask, we won't kind of, not that we don't want to ask, it's just that we don't know any better. We have, we do the correct things anyways, but we don't go on any kind of a self-discovery mode when we're in a happy place. It always, like I said in the beginning, leads from a drastic thing that happened to us, or something that just occurs to us in a big sense, that then forces us into this, oh, now I'm going to set goals. And for a majority of people, it's later on in life where, we need to, and it's fine, don't get me wrong, that we're doing that, but it needs to be pushed to the early 20s, and it's just going to create a better, stronger society for us if young men are equipped with this kind of information out there, so that when they do come out, they're managing better in every aspect of their life, because it's just to everyone's benefit. And you know no matter what kind of progress, I know we're enamored with the quick success, where that overnight person that comes in and just wows us. Everyone likes that, but for the 80% or whatever out there, 70, 80, 90%, whatever your number is or you believe in, everyone wants to put on a social media thing or a face that, oh, how fast I'm growing, or how this, and it's great, but that's a very small minority. And for some of them, they're just fronting. For a good number of them, they're for sure that, for sure they're doing it quickly. They got it. They're in the matrix. They got the code. They're just grooving and moving, as some people say. But for the majority of people, successful people, it's been a slow and steady process towards achieving that goal. And that's the thing, because it's not, people say, oh, it's not the finish line, it's the destination. And that's kind of true, but it's not, the destination. It is what it is. Like some people say, oh, yeah, or when I got into a discussion about, with someone, they were like, oh, it's like the football players, like they want to go, and that's it, they lose the desire. I'm like, no, they don't. I'm like, I never heard of a rookie going into the NFL, and you know just because he joined the wrong team or the right team and wins the Super Bowl that year, he retires. He says, "You know what? I achieved it. This is it. My goal was to win a Super Bowl, and that was it. I won it in my first rookie season. I make no money, but whatever. I no. Then your goal is to, I want to be better at my position, and I want to get more Super Bowls. I want to get two Super Bowls, and your goals are are gonna be, are gonna change for sure as you're going. But yeah, and I get the destination and all that, rah rah speech, but let's not kid ourselves. The goal is the goal. Like, oh, I want to have $1 million in my bank account. Everyone, well, romantic. You know how hard it is to have $1 million in your bank account. The amount of of stress that you have to put yourself. The amount of gray. Why do you think a lot of people have gray hairs when they have that kind of money? Because it's stressful to get to that part. Once you get to that $1 million, I guess it's like this click that goes off to most people, which is why a lot of like people that aren't making that or don't have that saved up for, like most of us, we're just like, what? Like hard. Like for me, it's hard to like get $500 or $1,000 or whatever your situation is. So you're like, oh, $1 million once you get that. But it's kind of like the trigger mark. Actually, you could probably go around 750, like 750 in the bank. But once you got that in the bank, like you're done. Like 250 in the bank, half a mil in the bank, you're still susceptible to stupid shit, or not learning, and you kind of stumbled on some success. But if you're like in 750 to 1 million in the bank, like that you're holding, like you broken that code. Like you like I said, you know what you're doing. But anyways, the point being is that for it's slow and steady is okay. It's the normal, and it just has to be like, again, you're focused on the goal. Yeah, the path is whatever, the as it, if you want to romanticize it, fine. The path, it is what it is, but your goal has to remain the same, because more often than not, for us, it's not gonna go bam, 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 boom, I got it. It's gonna go, I failed. I didn't even, nothing happened and just nothing happened. I started and I failed. I took 2 steps and I failed. I took, 10 steps and I failed. I took 20 steps and I failed. Boom, I did it. So you're gonna fail, because it's gonna, and not to go the generic route. Yes, you're going to learn certain things, but in some instances, you ain't going to learn nothing. And you're just going to get to your success because you just relentlessly wanted to do that. So, like, let's just take females. Let's just go with the loyalty. You could just be, as some people say, beta as fuck. But if your focus is to get a loyal girl, you will go through so many unhealthy relationships, but I guarantee you, you will hit your mark at some point. You will hit a girl that's loyal. It's just the laws of averages. So I'm not saying, that like, and that's why I listen. Oh, you have to learn and by your mistakes, because you don't have to. You don't really. Honestly, you don't have to. But your vision has to be on what it is, and just because your vision is on your goal, or your mind is on your goal, you will naturally, as you're going, which some people confuse that with experience, you are just gonna bypass the BS because you're focused on it. You're focused on your goal. And again, you're gonna stumble, but eventually you'll just start weaving that a little bit. You'll weaving through. You'll weave. I want to say weaving. You'll just be able to dodge some of those distractions, some of those red flags. In this instance, with women, yeah, you might end up, like I said, wasting a lot of time, but boom, you'll hit that one just because your vision was on a loyal chick. And what we put out in the universe, whether you believe in that manifestation or not, will return to you. One of the last parts that I want to touch on is for men, and the reason I'm saying all this and not giving you guys an out is that it is what it is. So many things set us, uh, keep us away from our goals. Women, our jobs, our kids, our friends, money, life, etc. So there's a lot of things that take us away, and we make these excuses for not reaching our goals. But only because I think the message has been like, hey, if you fail, you're a failure. No, it's gonna happen, but have a goal to whatever it is that you want for your life. And like I said, you know as men, we have to be able to handle the failures, and in this instance, the failures of us not reaching our goals, but start telling ourselves the correct question to allow our minds to then start giving us the correct and proper information. Not that you have to listen to anybody from a YouTube or a podcast or anything, because once you start asking yourself that question, your mind, without anyone else telling you, triggering that, and you'll figure it out on your own. That's when you'll start having those gut checks, because then your mind and your mind is throwing those signals to your gut and saying, hey, this is what I'm telling you, walk away or do this. And some people confuse it with, butterflies or intuition. However, you you deem it, you understand when whatever question it is that you ask. But that's the thing. Ask, making sure that you don't have a thing, well, I failed in this goal, and because your mind will then just go into this bias, is to, it wants to feel good. So it's gonna, if you say, oh well, I failed this, it's gonna say, oh, have another one. Or like in this instance, like the cigarette, it's gonna go like, oh, I'm such a dumbass, and here I go smoking another cigarette. Your mind's just gonna go like, well, it's okay, enjoy it. uh you know People live to be 90, so it wants to feed you a healthy dose of the correct information, so it gets that happy feeling again, because that's what the mind is designed to do. Because if you cross over too much into the as some say, the non-returnable side. That's when men commit suicide, and just general public just commit suicide because you cross over and your mind can't do nothing. It's become short-circuited. So, and that's when the brain becomes short-circuited, it your body doesn't know anything else. Your spirit doesn't know anything else to do but to detach. Depending on what you believe or what. Anyways, I don't want to get too much into that aspect of it, but or at least in that discussion for this podcast. But there's a lot of reasons. Again, like I said, that why men make the tell ourselves excuses as to why we don't achieve goals, or why we settled and whatnot. But it's super important to keep that in the forefront and keep these and write down these goals and then go after them. And we're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail, and it's okay. Just keep cognizant of what you're doing, and more often than not, you're going to succeed in achieving those goals, which then is just gonna then suck up something else, and then you're gonna achieve that, and then you'll suck up something else and achieve that in your mind, and then all of a sudden you'll just become this goal achiever, not a goal setter. You're gonna be a goal achiever, and that's what we need more men to achieve. Some of those, not just set goals, but let's start achieving them. So if you found this video, give it a share, hit the like button. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time.